This is the Lydian spin with Tim Dahl
Yes.
somewhere in the Euroverse.
I'm actually
As
I'm in Hanover right now. I played Bremen tonight, which is only it's close. It's an hour and a half away. So I'm staying with my good friend Claudia Francas, and I'm playing in Hanover tomorrow night. But it's 2:20 in the morning.
That's right. And in Brooklyn, I have a date with Kevin Shea. So we're going to wrap this
Oh,
up pretty
cool.
soon. Hello. Yeah, Simon Slater did make me aware, but I did see about this story. Brazilian woman brazenly wheels elderly man's corpse into bank to co-sign a loan for her. Quote, Uncle, are you listening? Obviously, this did not work. She was captured on footage with the dead man going into a bank, and it was first aired on TV Globo, Brazil's largest broadcaster, and she's trying to get the dead man to sign a document that she could take out a $3,400 loan. And are you listening? If you don't sign, there's no way because I can't sign for you. Well, needless to say, it was a failed bank
So
attempt.
this was like a weekend at Bernie's. I don't know if you ever saw that movie,
Well,
but
that's exactly what was Simon's report was that, which I've never seen that
oh,
because
and the
I
thing about Weekend at Bernie's is there's a Weekend at Bernie's 2. So has Bernie got rigor mortis at this point? Like, how do you keep on dragging a
I
corpse
mean
around?
that yeah, exactly. Well, I don't know. Ask yourself that. I don't deal with corpses myself.
Oh
But
God.
I mean, speaking of not necessarily dead men, but men that might wish they were dead. And this is one of my favorite topics. Man,
Okay.
27 fractures his own penis in
Oh
two
boy.
places. He cracked his
Ah.
own dick, and here's a horrifying snap after rolling onto his erect member while sleeping. Now, the poor chappie waited 36 hours before seeking medical attention. And, of course, what was he suffering from? Tim, what do I always say? It swells up like what? An
Uh,
eggplant.
uh,
Excruciating pain. I
yeah.
mean, look, a lot of guys, myself included, we get a stiffy when we sleep. But it's rare that you roll over on it and then you break it in two different places. And you know what? There's no cure for it. You just got to wait for it
He
to.
must have been a big guy. Yeah.
Well, no lasting damage, but the swelling went down after 2 days. He could reportedly urinate instantaneously, and but let's just say that's why you should probably masturbate before you go to sleep.
Well, no, because I
And
think
if you want to do it on my feet, it's no biggie. I'll
morning
gladly.
wood. I think morning wood is a natural way to cut off your urethra, so you don't piss your bed. So if you have a full bladder, it's a good defense where guys will have an erection and basically cut off the the tube to the bladder.
Morning wood. There's nothing
Morning, yeah,
sweeter.
exactly.
Well, and another horrifying terrifying. It says loud, terrifying sound resembling a woman's voice. Now, this is enough to stifle a stiffy, recorded deep in the Pacific Ocean. Scientists are uncovering the origins of a creepy sound that bears a striking resemblance. I wish it was my voice in the eastern equatorial Pacific Ocean. Now, oceans, our imaginations with their vastness, their mystery, their beauty. There's so much we don't know, face it, about
Oh,
the
for
ocean.
sure.
Even you, as a talented scuba diver. But this short video on YouTube has gained 1.4 million views, and it's the sound is just they used a variety of hydrophones that were kept hundreds of kilometers apart, and there's a special kind of microphone that's capable of detecting sound waves. So besides this, which is terrifying and creepy, they're horrified by what it sounds like. The other amazing thing is that now scientists have been quote unquote communicating with whales, taping their
Okay.
conversations, and now they're trying to decode what they're actually
Well, I was just
saying.
talking about this the other day. That just whales being able to communicate over
Oh,
hemispheres.
absolutely
Because
unbelievable.
water can carry the waves much longer, and these sub frequencies, these like 15 hertz, and nothing that a human could even hear.
Well,
And
yeah, of
that,
course. We just can't hear it, and who knows what the hell they're saying anyway. Like, where's
I mean,
where's where's my
see, like
lover?
mysterious.
Where's little Miss Orca?
I mean, orcas are no joke too. These kind of ghost-like, creepy sounds and experiences in the ocean. in my mom's town of Gloucester, Massachusetts, there's a thing called Hammond's Castle. This guy John Hammond was a military inventor.
Oh, you told me about this. Yeah.
Like from over 100 years ago, you have these crazy masquerade parties during in the Roaring Twenties and all that stuff. But one thing that he invented was remote control, and he would hook it up to these fishing boats, and the drunken fishermen there'd be no one in there, be going around. They thought it was ghosts. They would go back to the town and say they witnessed all this stuff. So who knows?
Well, speaking of a fishing boat, I have to say I just recently watched on Netflix Ripley, the latest version. I haven't seen the previous ones, which is so gorgeous and so creepy. And there's such a great episode involving a speedboat that just runs amok and almost takes the protagonist's balls off.
Can I interrupt? Yeah. I was about to write you today about that episode because I just watched it this afternoon.
Oh,
the problem I have is that he bashes the guy over the head with an oar, gets him bloody, but then he gets hit in the head by a speeding boat twice,
and he survives.
Then twice by a concrete anchor and has no damage to his head.
Well, you know what? Some of us are just stronger than others, Simon Slater. But in spite of the fact that you are a professional and I think award-winning sailor yourself, Simon Slater, we will just, suspend belief and go because Ripley is freaking beautiful and creepy as hell. And with that, I'd like to say, Tim Dahl, I will be with you shortly in a couple of weeks where we will be terrorizing the whole of Estonia and Finland.
Real quickly, O.J. Simpson, who passed away. Are they going to cut his brain open and find out if he had CTE?
His family doesn't want to do that, which is,
why not? That actually might even give
who the fuck
a little more compassion for that creep.
You know what? He was sick from the get-go, and he killed two people. How about now? There's a theory that he hired the Gambino family to kill them. That's one of the theories out there now. Whatever. You know what? I don't know. Don't call me.
He killed him.
He did it.
People know it.
He did it. Lydia, well, anyway, I do recommend also, and I never watched this. I mean, this just came up on my newsfeed, so I had to. Jimmy Kimmel's been dropping some really interesting Trump slags lately, like Boza. I mean, just about his, falling asleep in court. What a dunce. How is he going to stay awake for 4 to 6 weeks? Being shut up. He's gonna blow his fuse. He's probably just gonna stand up and go, "I did it. I admit it. I can't take it anymore."
They can't even get a jury though. Right? Isn't that a problem? That's one of their stall tactics, right?
Well, they already have 7.
Okay.
Yeah, they already. I do recommend. Jimmy Kimmel really had a great takedown and called him so many names I can't even remember that were hilarious about the stupidity of what we are forced to witness in this. The USA, which was never fucking great to begin with. It's only as great as you make it. With that, I'll run away from the presidency on all counts. This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl. Thank you very much. This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and lighting designer extraordinaire, award-winning friend of mine since the last century and beyond, Anne Militello. So happy to have you on.
Well, thank you.
You were just pulling up an album cover because your lighting company is called Vortex Lighting, and you're holding up the soundtrack for Beth and Scott B's Vortex film, which I and Jim Russo starred in many moons ago.
I know. I mean, everybody was on this recording, and including your pal Richard Edson that you just had on.
Well, by the way, I just recorded something that Richard Edson sent me today and sent it to him, sent it to Tim, and sent it to Matt. You probably haven't had a chance to hear it yet, Tim.
We just drove in from our gig. So
Speaking of Richard Edson, there we go, who we saw at one of my favorite living poets, a performance the other night in LA, John Tottenham.
Oh, great.
So crazy. I mean, at one point I was just doing, work under my own name, whatever. And then I got this job to do, it's like the things I do for money. I do anything. The phone rings. What can you light? I say anything. Yes, I'll do it because God knows, I have to make a living. But Universal Studios was doing their Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man ride. And they're like, you want to design the ride? I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay, I'll do that. And so they like, well, you have to have a company. You have to be a company. Don't use your name, and friends of mine that were inside, they're like, you don't want to be a female name when you do this big job. I'm like, fuck that, but okay, fine. And I happen to have this.
The Vortex LP.
And I'm like, there we go.
Nice. I like the full circle. Speaking of designing a ride, I love the Cyclone at Coney Island is my favorite ride in the world. Do you like roller coasters?
Yeah, I do, but I have motion sickness. I can't help it. I have inner ear shit. And so anytime I have to design these rides, and I don't do that anymore, I haven't done it. It doesn't mean I won't when the phone rings again. But
can I be the tester of the rides, please? Acid, Coney Island, Jim Scalvunis standing up. It was heaven. Can I say?
First, they test with sandbags as body bags.
Oh boy,
they got a velocity test, and then if you're working on it and you want to be the guinea pig, then you can test it. But anytime I get on that, and the guys that I worked with knew that I got motion sickness, they'd crank it up so that the spin would be more spinny, and then I would just like vomit for the next hour, and everybody would get a big kick out of it. And,
Well, some guys like vomit. Some guys get vomited on. Some guys remind me of freaking vomit. Let's go back in the day. I don't remember exactly when we met, but we were hanging out a lot at the same time in the late 70s, early 80s with the same bunch of people, with the Voidoids, with Robert Quine, the CBGB and Max's scene. And did you start in San Francisco? Did you come to New York? When did you come to New York?
I started in San Francisco. I took a Greyhound bus from Buffalo and went to San Francisco because
I didn't know you were from Buffalo. I'm from Rochester. What the hell? No wonder we're dirty cousins. Christ.
Right. Sicilian also.
Exactly. Watch out. Two of us now.
I was going because there was a music scene there, and I thought I was going to sing or be a musician, and then I realized I had horrible stage fright. Horrible. I couldn't. And I had met previously in Buffalo because I used to like work for Harvey Weinstein. Okay.
Oh my.
Oh yes.
In Buffalo?
No, that's where he's from. That's where he made his career. He also used to manage Talus, which is a Buffalo heavy metal.
Absolutely. And he was a concert promoter. Him and his brother had Harvey and Corky Productions.
Yeah.
And so they brought everybody. They brought Genesis, early Peter Gabriel stuff.
Which of course I saw in Rochester. And also, I went to Buffalo one night to see the Tubes. I don't know if you were at that show. It was a blizzard. I hooked up with two blonde teenage boys.
But I used to do anything like in the office, file, he was gruff. I wasn't his type because I was
thank God.
So
wait, you weren't his type because you were Sicilian, aggressive, and don't fuck with me, huh?
No, and I looked like a boy, I was like a stick. So I wasn't.
Not anymore, honey.
Not anymore. But anyway,
yummy.
But I used to do things like, he used to put me on stage to bounce girls off the stage who were jumping up on the stage for, Leonard Skinner, and I'd have to like go and bump hit them, and they taught me how to. The bouncers taught me how to hit. Anyway, so I wanted to be in music.
We could have had a tag team back in those days when I was coming to Buffalo on the Greyhound. See, I went to Buffalo on the Greyhound, then you went to San Francisco on the Greyhound. Chasing our dreams.
All I had for that 5-day trip was a tin of pot brownies.
Okay. Whoa.
A tin. But
did you eat them?
Pardon? Yes, I did. They were gone by the time. Oh my God.
Who did you go to see? So you thought you were going to do some rock and roll in San Francisco, but what was the music there that inspired you to go there?
I just had a friend, and I wanted to get the fuck out of Buffalo. And I wasn't ready to go to New York yet. I knew that's where I was going to end, but I had a friend and I could stay there for free. And
so what'd you do in San Francisco? And what year was that? Was that the mid 70s?
Yeah. 70.
Mid 70s. Yeah.
And I needed a job right off the bat, and there was a job. The Golden Gate Theater was a punk club house. It's a big Broadway house now, huge stage, big theater, and they did 6, 7 punk bands a night. And I thought I'd get a job doing anything bar back. And Sylvester, disco star, was the manager.
You
Okay.
Make Me Feel, one of my favorites, my only disco song I like.
Now, I mean, I'm pretty sure.
Wait, Sylvester what? Start again?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was him. Yeah, it was that guy, but he was in drag. And I remember going to this office because they said they just need everybody. And the only thing left that they needed was lighting. And he was scary, just drag and fucked up.
Giant person too, very tall. Right?
Giant, yeah.
Wow.
And he goes, well, what can you do? Or she, what can you do?
Whatever.
And I took a lighting class in Buffalo before I quit college, and I knew that they had lighting left, and I said, lighting, and they go, yeah, and I said, yeah, I came from New York, like Buffalo. I don't just gonna say New York. And so he's like, start tonight. And I didn't know what the fuck to do. I didn't know what to do. I had this like little slider board like they used to have. And there were all these bands. And I was like, okay, I'm trying to make it look tasteful. Like, okay, here. And he was like, look, and put a bunch of lines of Coke right in front of me. Insisted.
That helped.
Grabbed my hands, took one of my hands in each of his hands and just slammed it, slammed the light, slammed up and down, and told me, screamed at me not to let go. I'm not allowed to go to the bathroom. I'm just to stay there. And until, the end of the night, if I had to pee in my pants, I had to. Fuck that. And then I got the job. And so I stayed there.
So what did Sylvester have to do with the club?
He was the manager.
Oh my God.
For a minute.
Amazing. A manager of a punk rock club in SF.
So Sylvester bullied you into being competent as a lighting person, and that's how you started your career.
Well, there was hardly anyone that knew how to do that back then.
Well, you show up with your competence, at least in your mind, and you can actually learn like
on the job.
Yeah, and then you're valuable.
Did you like the music? What groups did you like that were going down in San Francisco at the time?
There were groups like, the Dead Kennedys, but they came out another year later because I worked at the Mabuhay Gardens. So there was like the Offs, the Dead Kennedys, Jim Carroll band. That's where they started. Even
amazing
punk, but I got to know him and those people. Tuxedo Moon, which is a bunch of different what's their face, the Avengers,
yeah,
different bands. I did a ton of bands.
It was very active. At that period, San Francisco, Los Angeles, London, New York, that's where it was all happening.
Right, yeah. And then I went because Mabuhay Gardens was on the strip where all the strip clubs were, and friends were like, well, if you got a night off, why don't you work over here? So I went and lit Carol Doda at the
nice,
who told me to just get some injections and get on stage with the rest of them.
Just tell a little bit about Carol Dodo for those that don't know who she was, because she was basically the babe of Broadway and SF.
Yeah, she was the famous stripper from San Francisco, and she was famous because she was the first person to have silicone. And the way that they did it back then, where I just saw a documentary on it. They injected it right into the tip. And then they blow up immediately. And so like every week she'd get bigger and bigger and bigger. And people were coming to see these ginormic breasts. And the club had this piano that was on stage, and the girls would be on the piano, but also it was on a hydraulic lift, and it would raise up to the ceiling. There was a hole in the ceiling. And so the piano would go up and she'd get up from the second floor, and then the piano would come down, and that's how she'd appear.
Amazing.
And that was going until one of the managers on the club got crushed to death on the piano.
Ouch.
Having sex with one of the strippers after hours. It was a big deal. It was crazy, but
I bet. The first guest on our show was Kitten Natividad, the Russ Meyer superstar. She was our first guest. Yeah.
She was going down to Mexico to get those early injections, and ultimately she had them removed. They were toxic, and she was just making it up as they're going along, and That's that.
Yeah. I mean, I only worked at the condo for a minute because I was doing all the punk stuff. And then I went to a party a friend of mine had, and it was a party for a play she was in. She was in some punk play at the Magic Theater, which was a really interesting place. There was all these interesting people. And there was a guy in the corner. I felt sorry because we were all punkers. And he looked like a truck driver, but he was really cute, you know.
I
Really,
like myself some truck drivers now and then. It's true.
and nobody was talking to him. And I thought it's because like he wasn't so cool because he had on a
Right.
cap.
Right. He was a trucker.
And he said, do you like theater? And I go, no. He
No.
said, well, I wrote a play.
Don't even tell me it was Sam Shepard.
Yes, it was.
Oh my word and a half.
I believed he was a truck driver. I agreed to read his play. He dropped it off at my apartment and said, you know, call me and tell me what you think of it. It was
unbelievable.
Suicide in B flat that they ended up doing at the Magic Theater with Danny Glover and Peter Coyote. Was he in there? I can't remember now.
Wow.
And
just from being at a party.
And I was telling
the right party.
This truck driver gave me this play. It's actually, he's really good. Like I like this. I really like this a lot. And they're like, what's the guy's name? And they're like, you idiot. You know, you won a Pulitzer Prize last year. What are you, crazy? That's Sam Shepard. And nobody was talking to him because they were afraid of him. They were intimidated.
Nice.
So
unbelievable. That I'll be just perfect.
So I went to do theater, you know, after that, because I was still doing bands, but I wanted to make more money and do the bigger things. And FM Productions, which was Bill Graham's company, was there. And they wouldn't hire me at first. They said, you need experience. So I started roadieing on the road for the smaller touring companies. So my first job on tour was fucking Mel Torme.
That must have been soul crushing.
God, it was horrible. I was like, get me out. So I pleaded for them. So then they gave me Eddie money and then.
No. Fun fact, Eddie Money beat Billy Joel in the Battle of the Bands in Levittown High School Battle of the Bands competition. Eddie Money won.
Wow.
Was Eddie Money 2 Tickets to Paradise?
Yes.
That's about all I know of Eddie Money.
He was a big perv, so he would.
Wait, he was a big perv?
Yeah.
Do tell.
Well, I was, I was the trust monkey because I was the only girl that I ever saw doing any of this stuff. And so as one crew head told me, I was expendable. They set me up for the dangerous stuff because torture me and I could die and it was okay. And I was like, anyway, I was up on a ladder.
Show you motherfuckers. Yeah.
My tools, like hanging heavy lights, and Eddie Money would always come right up under the A-frame ladder and just stare at my crotch. And I was like, you better fucking stop that, you know? And so finally, after many warnings, I threw my big heavy crescent wrench down towards his head. He got out of the way just in time. I was fired, of course, but you
should have been given a raise.
Well, he wanted to keep me, and the management's like,
I bet. Well, he liked the site.
So, he
liked your spunk. Not that you liked his spunk, but I'm not asking that question right now.
He died like a couple years or so.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, so you're doing Sam Shepard, you're getting into theater and also Eddie Money, but then what makes you decide I got to go to New York? That's it.
Well, because I was also doing a lot of drugs. This was pre-AIDS. This was just when AIDS was starting to happen, and guys were getting the male cancer, the gay cancer. It was just starting, and
San Francisco was hit really hard, as was New York.
Yeah, but it was wild. Like California. Wow, sexually, crazily. New York had nothing on San Francisco during those days.
That period, yeah.
Sam Shepard, God bless rest his soul, said, I think you better get out of here because you're going to die. So why don't you go to New York and look up these certain people, which was, Ellen Stewart from La Mama Theater, the playwright Marie Irene Fornes. These were friends of his. He said, I don't have anybody's phone number. Just go find them. And another guy, Johnny Dodd, who was a really experimental avant-garde lighting designer who worked with he first worked with the New York Dolls for a minute. And then
which did not we love with the most?
Yeah, I'm telling you, but he also
I'm telling you.
the living theater and the open theater, all the really experimental, crazy stuff. And so I went to New York, but I needed a job. So I started working in clubs like the Mud Club and the Rock Lounge, and I do CBs every once in a while.
How would you even get these jobs? Would you just go in and go, yo, I'm a lighting designer, let me in? I mean, we were bold in those. That's how we did it in those days. We did how we did it.
And I was a freak because I was female, and I looked 12 when I was. They were like, "What the?"
Well, you only look 16 now, Anne. Come on.
But they didn't know. You know, I was full of myself in the fact that, like, I was sure I could do it.
Right.
You know?
I know what you mean. I was full of myself too. Hello.
So
whether they could do it,
the job because somebody, wanted to pluck me or whatever it was, I kept getting the jobs, and I didn't give it away to those people for sure. But
but the list that you did give it away to, you see, that's the one I'm interested in. Hello. By the way, I just have to ask, and say what you will. You were featured on the cover of a 7-inch of Richard Hell and the Voidoids, which, by the way, that was my favorite band at the time. And it was Richard Hell, the biggest disappointment forever after the first album, I must say. Robert Klein, my hero, just saying.
I know, Robert Klein, nice man.
How did you end up on the bed and the cover, if you don't mind?
Well, I was his girlfriend, even though he
is a dick.
Yeah. I was listed as Richard Hell, an unknown woman, in every exhibition that picture
cover. Who took that photo?
What's her name? Roberta
Bailey.
Who knew who I was too?
What?
Who knew who I was too?
Yeah.
So, but I was never credited with being in that photo until much later, after I think I started making a stink around. When I saw it up, and then it was also in the New York Times, unidentified. I'm like, I'm fucking identified.
Hello. Yeah.
But anyway, the story how I met him.
I did tell you a good story. We won't go into that. Well, go ahead. Do tell your story. Oh, yeah, we know about that. Wipe some pussy juice in his hair, send him back to his girlfriend. Just saying.
I had something he wanted, and it was
genius, beauty, spunk,
white stuff.
Yeah.
Because I had to make some extra money. So look, I'm never going to run for public office, but in addition,
pubic office, perhaps we can both start a contingent.
I had a little side business with a friend of mine at first, and then this woman across the street from me was she got a lot of stuff from the Colombians, direct from the Colombians.
Oh, okay, I hear you.
She, I was her protege.
Right.
So she'd send me
Griselda Jr.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I saw all.
I love you to this day, Anne Militello.
Guitar cases with the machine guns in them. I saw all of that, and everybody went over there. You name the rock star, they were her client. The B list she gave me.
Oh, I see.
So I had what they wanted. Oh boy.
Did you get a little twitch? Did you get a chubby by saying that right now? I got a little bit of a tweak down there.
So I kind of had a salon.
That's what I like to call it myself, a salon.
And so that's how I met Mr. Hell.
Right.
Who endeared himself to me because
he was very charming.
Totally charming, but I
unbelievably charming, but
wasn't interested at first.
It was a one-trick pony.
Yeah. Pony. But but then
Pony Boy. It was a one-trick pony boy.
That album, Destiny Street, that was a low time, trying to.
Yeah, well, nothing was as good as the first album. But anyway, so now you're in New York. You're doing what you do, but you quickly progress on to working with an incredible amount of people and theater. I mean, from La Mama, then what? Wooster Group too?
Yeah, I did.
Which
Yeah,
was where which is where Willem Dafoe came out of, which is where my first main solo show happened as well. I mean, big, with production happened.
Yeah. Well, I worked with Mabu Mines, who did a production or two at the Wooster Group space, but and they were really interesting. But this all came because when I was working one night at the Mud Club, I was going to work. It was the Mud Club, or I can't remember which one. And I was walking down Second Avenue in the rain, in my leathers and my punk regalia. And at a Korean market, I was like, there is Ellen Stewart. That's who Sam told me to find, because she was unmistakable.
Right.
Woman with big braids and it was right around the block from the theater. So I went into the Korean grocery. I said, "Are you Ellen Stewart?" And she said, "And who are you?"
Nice.
And I said, "Well, Sam Shepard," like all nervous around her. And I said, "I'm a lighting designer and I'd like to work at your theater." She goes, "You're a lighting designer." And then she goes, "Okay, baby, you coming with me." And she took me, she grabbed onto my jacket in the rain.
You're on the way to work.
Took me into the theater and pretty much pushed me in, and
Show me what you got.
Sitting in this empty theater was Tom Ian, who wrote Dreamgirls and a bunch of other stuff, and Michael Bennett, who, wrote Chorus Liner. And they were doing the 20th anniversary season of La Mama, and they just fired the other lighting designers. This like hole in the wall rat trap theater. And Michael Bennett had a fucking big raccoon coat on. And these two, very famous gay men, and she throws this rat drenched punk child in and says, "Here's your lighting designer." And they're like, "Oh no."
One look and they're like, "Oh Christ."
And then she kind of proceeded to lock the door on me for about 3 days. And I had to put that show up myself, hang everything, circuit it, then run the show, design it. And then I started this, and then
that was a big deal, though. I mean, that you're doing everything then.
Big stuff. Yeah.
And La Mama was and still is, extremely respected.
Yeah, and I got to work with all those people, like then she kept me there, she unpadlocked the door after 3 days. Feed me.
Did you ever run into Robert Wilson? Because Robert Wilson always said that he believed that the most important part of theater is light design.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you ever crossed paths.
Well, I didn't meet him until I was working with Tom Waits, and they were doing Black Rider while I can't remember which tour.
How did that gig come up? Because look, seeing Tom Waits at 14 in Rochester with a street light, a bass player and piano. I mean, I've always loved Tom Waits. A lot of it, even covered Heart Attack and Vine. Must say.
I ran a follow spot for him when I was in San Francisco doing all that club work and stuff. I just worked one night just running a follow spot, and he scared me. Like I just was scared of him, but I loved him. But
when did you get your balls, baby? I think of you as a ballsy chick, and you got your balls. You must have got your balls in New York.
Yes, I did. And then it didn't really come out until, because my students, I teach now, they're like, "You were shy?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then I forced myself to become a belly dancer, but that's
okay. Back to Tom Waits. So how did you did a follow spot for Tom Waits, and then you went on tour with him?
No, I didn't meet him.
You met Robert Wilson. You met Robert Wilson through Tom Waits.
But what happened was I started doing so much theater. Tom Waits in New York, lots of theater. And then Tom Waits was looking for a lighting designer for his tour. And my theatrical agent at the time was contacted saying, he wants somebody to do theater. And that's, I met Tom. I came to California, and I had to meet him at a truck stop coffee shop outside of Googie
coffee shop, perhaps. I'm just guessing.
And he was really nice. He was a little nervous. I was really nervous, but I brought a sketch pad, and then we started drawing. And God bless him. I did 4 or 5 tours with him after that, but that's how I met Robert Wilson, and we said that maybe someday we'd work together, but he works with lots of people I know, and I just adore and love his work.
Mm.
Yeah, but I haven't ever done anything with him, you know.
I mean, to me, and your career is so amazing because as somebody who came out of scrappy punk rock, basically music loving, rock star fucking, and I say that with high respect, as we both were at the time. Because why would you want to fuck anybody else? That just a series of consequential events happened to propel what really was your talent anyway. And then you became like winning all these freaking awards, which is fantastic because shy as you might have been, you kept pushing.
Yeah. You know, and the thing is, the lucky thing for me, like I didn't fuck all the rock stars. I didn't.
Wait. Who did you not that you wanted to? Come on.
No.
Oh.
But what happened was
wait, who did you not that you wanted to? That you wanted to.
Oh no, I can't say that yet.
Oh, why can't you? Come on. Because you fucked them all? Hello. You know what? I think I fucked everybody I wanted to, so I'm just saying.
I would have never worked again. So I knew
you had to hold out.
As soon as that happened with certain people, I was going to be, you know, as soon as the managers and the producers would find out, I was kicked
But you
out.
didn't answer the question. Who did you want to? And still to this day, do you have a little tingling?
You know, yes.
Tingling down below. Come on, tell me.
I love Tom Verlaine. You know, but I never got too near him because of Richard. But I loved Tom Verlaine. He was like the person I thought I was always going to be with, you know. And
well, he wasn't. He was a poet. He was a poet. He looked like he was dead.
I liked that at that time. You know?
I hear you.
But I kept my nose clean. Well, not my nose clean.
We're not talking about your nose, honey. We're talking about down below. Anyway, we can get into that in your memoir, which I'm going to help you ghostwrite. I'm just saying.
But also, when I was on tour later on with bands, you know, like Lou Reed and Pearl Jam, and stuff, you know, I was like, I don't need the rock star. I have the beautiful crew.
Hello, I'll go back to the truck driver looking one who might be a real poet underneath that hat.
That way I didn't get in trouble. I didn't get in trouble.
You know what? The best rock fucks of my life probably produce the worst music. So I'm just saying, and that's why like a truck driver or a construction worker might be better than that so-called freaking rock star. Get off the stage. Shut up.
You know, and it's like all the years I worked with Sam Shepard. We were
now he could have been an interesting.
Well,
he was hot at
he was hot, but he was like my brother, you know. He was like a spiritual creative.
I get it.
Angel brother.
I don't know why you didn't call me. I could have done it for you, honey, and I would have reported it all back. Just
you know, like people don't believe me, and I go, nope, never did.
Well, we got that contract now. You point him out and I'll take him down.
Okay.
Going down again, just saying. I know.
But I remember you, Lydia, at
what do you remember?
Which gig it was that I was doing in New York, which club, and you came in the night before you came in. It was Joan Jett. I think it was at the Rock Lounge. You may not remember.
Everybody, go ahead, but I'm interested. Go ahead.
Everybody went there. And Joan Jett had a big black shag, and she was wearing a blue bodysuit. And that day, I happened to have a blue bodysuit on, and my hair was dyed black. And she wasn't having it.
You got to go home and change your clothes?
I didn't, but like I just kept my distance. I
put
the ladder around it and got everything set and got up to my booth. By the way, the booth, I don't know if you remember Anita Sarko, the DJ.
I do. Yes, I do.
So Anita Sarko and I shared the booth, and she was friends with Jean-Michel Basquiat, who would want to come and hang out, but he would try to steal my stash, my drugs. And I'd kick him down try to kick him down the stairs. But anyway, you came in the next night, and I was like, I better not be wearing the same thing as the lead singer of this one too, and we weren't. thank God you were in I remember because I was like, what can I wear that isn't going to get me in trouble? And you had a black vinyl or something, it was shiny. Maybe it was leather, it was vinyl.
I don't know.
And but I was like, oh no, this chick's the real thing. Because
ain't no Joan Jett.
Joan Jett was all right, but it wasn't
Sure,
really
she's
my
rock.
thing, it wasn't really my thing. But then with your band, I was like, oh,
well, you must be talking about Teenage Jesus.
yeah. I didn't even I couldn't even talk to you guys because I was so like,
well, we didn't want anybody to talk to us anyway. We were absolutely hateful. We were hateful.
Like, yeah, because people weren't like chatty and friendly in New York at those days.
Well, the only thing I had to ask somebody is how much time do they have in the alley behind CBG? All I'm saying is nothing. How many times I got kicked out of the bathroom at CBGB's?
Yeah.
You hear me. You hear me.
But yeah. So I just kept doing, I kept doing more theater gigs. So I stopped doing as many clubs. And then once I was doing theater, then I got the gig with Tom Waits from theater. And then once all these other bands like Lou Reed and all these different people saw Tom Waits, they were like,
what Lou Reed tour did you do?
I did the Ecstasy tour. I was going to show you a visual of it.
Doesn't matter. Was it any good? Because, I fell off him after Berlin. I liked some of Sally Can't Dance. I did see that in Rochester, New York when I was a teenager.
Right. His shows were more interesting than
Waves of Fear, my favorite with Robert Klein on it. Berlin, my favorite. Can you imagine if you could have done the lights for Berlin if that was ever staged? Oh my God.
Unbelievable. That would have been he was a tough one to work for.
He was an asshole. Come on. He was a dick.
I cannot believe. He told me if I ever told anyone
what a dick he was,
that he would have me and my family killed. That's what he said.
Right.
Like, I will have you and your entire family killed. And then, but years later, not years later, only a year or two later, he had to go to court with somebody who, a promoter who he threatened to kill him and his family. So this was.
I mean, you know what? I can't even see that weak-willed, sop threat. I mean, your threat means nothing to me. I would have to just say it meant nothing. I mean, when I met him when he was in a wheelchair after Sally Can't Dance, I was like, "You're a fucking asshole." I was 14 at the time. Leave me alone. Just saying.
Fernando Saunders was on that tour, right? The bass player.
Yes.
He's great. He's great.
Fernando tried to save me from Lou, but Lou was always he kept hallucinating and thinking I was Sylvia, his ex-wife.
Oh.
So he'd say, "Stop it, Sylvia." And I'm like looking at my crew going, "Why are you calling me Sylvia again?" But once he locked me in his dressing room, the green room in somewhere in Spain. It wasn't Bilbao, it was before we got to Bilbao. And he was threatening to kill me because I had come back. I was apparently somebody who came from a previous lifetime that was out to do him in, and he had to get rid of me. And so he was looking at me like he was ready. He was going to beat me up.
Waves of Fear. Yeah, the song.
And I was like, man, I think if I beat him up, I'm the one that's going to get arrested. Because I knew I could.
Because he had no idea that you could have fucking killed him in a Sicilian way in a matter of seconds. Who's he fucking with? This is ridiculous.
I was afraid of getting locked in a Spanish prison and reading the headline of the woman who killed
Lou Reed.
Death Lou Reed. That's all I was thinking of my jail time.
I understand. Yes.
So I had to submit to him, which is what he
commanded, no doubt.
Oh my God.
What a monster, though. What a monster. So now you're teaching. How do you even teach conceptual art to the COVID inflicted mini millennials who have a 140 character attention span and a 30-second attention span for music or video? How do How is that working for
Well,
you?
it's really interesting because, like in every group of people, there's always the special people. And so I get it, I get to recruit my students. So I teach mostly graduate courses, even I don't have a college degree, but
Well, this is the beauty of teaching when you don't have a college degree, or in my case, not even a high school degree.
oh wow. It's, it used to be okay for art schools. Things are changing, but anyway, I like find the people that are applying to schools that find CalArts, because CalArts is the weirdo place. It's where all the artists are. It's an experimentation hub. It's,
Well, when we had dinner, you told me some very interesting things about what you try to inspire in your students. I can't recall them now, but I thought what you were trying to get out of them, or what you were, imparting to them, was very interesting
yeah.
about the challenges you give them.
Yeah, but also, like I have a lab, so I do music light exercises and I give them different genres of music that they have to research and they have to find, and then they have to see if there's any research on how it was lit back then and light it then, just to get the background, because they've got the new technology and they're whiz bangs on the computer, and they do amazing stuff that's beyond, but also just the knowledge of, how powerful light is and what light can do. Light can make somebody look beautiful, like Carol Doda taught me how to uplight the body so
Like our
that
pin lights now.
the tits perk up, which is a method I used once to light Keith Richards' face on a broadcast for this Graham Parsons thing, and I smoothed him out, man, and people were blown away, and it was all just cosmetic lighting, but or how to make somebody look really ugly. Like Tom Waits used to say, don't make me look pretty. I'm not pretty. Don't make me look it. And I'm
Add
like,
some more wrinkles.
yeah, I'm like, thank you, because I could just, he was art. He was, a beautiful sculpture. But anyway, just trying to get them to channel how much power this medium has. So I do a lot of, science, weird, mystical, weird stuff. Like, like all the religions of the world have used light to scare people or inspire people, and, the Vedics, the Indians, like their light god was a healer and wonderful. The Aztecs, if they didn't sacrifice and maim and rip out hearts, then the sun was not going to leave the sky and they would burn to death. So that's why, they were afraid of it. It was light was hostile. So they had to like kill for it.
And actually, light and the sun is becoming hostile. It's not exactly the sun, it's the way that we have dissolved the atmosphere between the sun and ourselves,
Yeah.
which is making it hostile.
Well, get those temples, those pyramids going and start, burning some people alive.
How sensitive are you to light aesthetics in terms of an environment that you enter, for instance? I mean, there's, people will go into a store or a house, oh, the lighting is terrible in here. I mean, are you just much more sensitive than the average person that makes such comments?
I am. I position myself, and if I have to go to a restaurant that a friend wants and it's
awful,
horrible, then I have to find the right seat in order to tolerate it, or I have to leave.
Well, I mean, we were having dinner. We were almost driven out by the acoustics, which is what drives me insane.
Well, it's amazing. Restaurants don't often consider acoustics. If you're if you're a foot from someone and you are screaming at each other and you still can't hear each other because all the sound reflection, it's like this. Whoever owns this restaurant doesn't get it. You want to be able to whisper and hear everything clearly, but that's digressing.
Well, I'll tell you right there, though, there's a little research on that says the louder restaurants considered hotter, so they can charge more money. So some of them do not deaden the sound because they want the young people to think there's more happening there. It's more
disgusting. And do you have a favorite color? I mean, I never have asked that question to anybody, but I have to say, as somebody who designs lights, and it's so impacting.
Oh, it's a daily change, a daily thing.
Is there any one solitary color anyway? I mean, no.
But I'm like deep ruby red glass.
Oh, like I have some. I'm looking at some across the way from me.
Isn't
Yes.
the devil's tongue deep ruby red glass?
Yes, it is, Tim. The devil's tongue is. And if you don't know what that is, ladies, just look it up on Love Honey, the devil's tongue glass dildo filled with what looks like red blood.
I mean,
something we can all use at a time like this.
What about pigment in the eyes? I mean, if I go to Japan or something, it's so bright everywhere in these like stores and people's houses, and I have like really blue eyes, and I think just like maybe my skin's more fair to the sun. Is the pigment in the eyes really? I feel like I'm more sensitive to bright lights.
You are more sensitive with lighter colored eyes. You're more sensitive, and that's all there's to it. And so their eyes are not usually bluer, so they can take more light. But also, you know how the lights there is cold mostly. Like we like warm light.
I like amber light. My whole apartment is amber lights. Yes, I like
Asia, it's cooler, and the reason is because a lot of Asia, especially China, didn't get electricity until after the fluorescent tubes started becoming commercially available, and you get more punch and less wattage out of fluorescent tubes. So where communities where they didn't have much power, which was all of China and much of Japan, we've got artificial light now. The only thing they can get in the first fluorescent lights that they used to manufacture were those really cold ones. It's the only way they figured out those phosphors.
What I heard about Osaka today is that they used to have 150,000 neon lights, and now it's down to 50,000. And there's complaints about it. I mean, if you remember Blade Runner, which of course is Osaka all the way, but that was interesting to me. Like there's actually a protest against the abolition of the neon lights there because it was what Osaka was known for.
But another question, I mean, because I'm really pretty ignorant of this stuff. Are LEDs taking over everything? Is that where we're at right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's it.
And do you enjoy working with LEDs?
I have to. I can't, you can't cry over what you can't have anymore,
Right.
So you have to master it, and you do. And the reason why the tubes went away, because neon tubes take a lot of voltage to power, like to get that gas to burn. It takes, like you plug in something in the wall, it's 120 volts. 120 volts, a lot, it'll kill you. To power, neon has to have a transformer power supply that could go up to 500, 600 volts in order to, it goes down to 120 in the outlet, but to get that gas ignited, it needs a spurt of a lot of electricity. So therefore, in dealing with, energy and the lack of fossil fuels and everything, it's like, we don't have enough oil to power all these neon anymore, running out.
What about military lights used as weapons?
Well, that's a whole other thing.
It's a whole other thing.
Listen, all technology for lights starts with military
all technology in general.
Development. Yeah. And then the artists get a hold of it, and then it gets commercialized.
Well, there's been a lot again about the Havana syndrome and, the disclaimer about it. But I mean, if 100 people say they've been affected and they're all in the government working for the FBI, the CIA or whatever, if you're affected, you're affected. And how could you think that Russia would not, or any place else would not have a sound wave, a light wave, something that could affect? Of course, this exists. And with that, Anne Militello, I think that you need to develop a light that could heal the rest of this frickin' planet, because we are on the verge, really, of, I'm an apocalyptician. The end is not soon enough. It's not going to be tomorrow. You can have all the wars you want. You know what? There's always, the war is never over. There's 174 countries in conflict. Wah, 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 wah. What is different? The only thing, the only solution, the only fear is of a female planet. And with that, I'm asking you, Anne Militello, to be my running mate. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Anne Militello, award-winning lighting designer, rock and roll instigator, good friend of mine, and Tim Dahl. Thank you so much.